Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report. And coming up on today's show, we're going to look at the top 30 visits that the Silver and Black have had so far. If you don't know what a top 30 visit is, essentially all NFL teams are allowed to visit with 30 players leading up to the draft. We'll kind of get into all the rules here. The Raiders have not fulfilled all 30 of those visits as it stands right now at the moment that I'm recording this video. They have visited with 15 players in total. So I don't have these ranked in any particular order. We will go from offense and work our way down to the defensive side of the football. And essentially what I wanted to do is I'm like, hey, if AP and Telesco are meeting with these players, I thought that I could at least take a little bit of a deep dive on who each player is, why you need to know who they are, and which round Las Vegas could potentially target them in the 2024 NFL Draft. So if you don't know what the top 30 visit rules are, by league rule, the visit has to include some sort of medical examination, which you do usually get an examination at the Combine. This one's also with just like the Raiders team doctors, which does matter a lot to certain NFL teams. Top 30 visits are all non-local players, so you can do the math there. And then a club can bring in as many local players as they want. I will admit, when you think about local players for Las Vegas and the Raiders, the areas are kind of confusing. So if you see people from the East Coast, the North, the South of like the United States, that's not a local visit. If it's pretty close to within the borders of Nevada, essentially, that is what is considered a local visit for NFL teams. Now, if you want to stay up to date on all things going on around the Raiders, if you didn't watch our Friday happy hour show, then I'm telling you right now, y'all missed something. David Zahn went on a whole nother level. But if you're looking for draft content, if you're just looking for videos that, you know what, maybe you're dealing with something in your life. We had a viewer on Friday who was watching the show and, you know, they're just dealing with a little bit of stuff. If you watch this show and it can take you away from reality for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 30 seconds, I want this to be that type of therapy session at times because that's how I started doing this whole thing. So subscribe for draft videos, subscribe for a good time, subscribe for the nation. Help us get to 168,000 subscribers. All right, here we go. We're now going to get into the visits for the Las Vegas Raiders, and I want to try to roll through these rather quickly just because there are 15 of them, and I'll tell you some of the key points about each of the players that the Raiders are meeting with and then where they're going to end up getting drafted. The first name you probably have heard of before, Michael Penix Jr. I like him because he does have that ability to make every throw on the field. He is a pocket passer with solid pocket awareness and is athletic enough to run. Like, this isn't going to be somebody that you're going to design runs for, but in a situation, 3rd down and 5, nobody's open at a shotgun, is going to be able to tuck it and run. I do believe that the way that you're going to be able to get the most out of him is putting him in an offense that does go out of shotgun a lot. I also think that he can succeed in the pistol formation, which is something that Luke Getsy did run quite a bit the past 2 seasons with the Chicago Bears, and maybe that has more to do with Justin Fields and his overall skill set. But Penix, to me, is a quarterback that is a very intriguing prospect because I will literally say, if he wasn't a lefty quarterback, there's nobody that's saying that J.J. McCarthy should go over Michael Penix Jr. Like, the only reason why that anybody says it is because Penix is a lefty and because the ball delivery is a little bit different. Yes, he does have medical concerns, but he hasn't had medical concerns in 2 years, and everybody at the Combine said he's good to go. Let's go to the next player here that the Raiders have met with. It's Jordan Travis. Is undersized, got an average arm. However, he has shown that he has the ability to learn an offense, and he has gotten better and better. For people that watch this show a lot, you'll know, any position, any player, I want to know somebody that's coachable. I want to know somebody that shows me that ability that they can get better year after year after year. He is talented as a runner. He can pick up first downs. I still want to see what his leg looks like after he just shattered his leg just a few months ago. He does need to improve his pre-snap motion recognition or pre-snap recognition, and his ability to work through progressions does scare me a little bit. Like, there is a world where I believe in the right situation, Jordan Travis can be a good NFL quarterback, but he's got to be in the right system. Like, Travis is never going to be a top 10 QB. However, if you need somebody that can just come in and fill a few spot starts for you here and there, can be a game manager on a team that has a very legit defense, like the way that Jordan Travis works on the Raiders, let's say, is Raiders build the defense. They just say, don't turn over the football. If you need to pick up a few first downs with your legs, go ahead and do so. But, like, your Super Bowl is never going to happen with Jordan Travis. You might be able to make the playoffs, but, like, this guy needs at least 2 years to develop to be an NFL QB. Let's go to the next name here, another QB. It's Bo Nix from Oregon. Y'all know how I feel about Bo. And if Nix was, like, linked to the Raiders in round 3 and round 4, I would be a lot more okay with it. It's not that I don't like Nix as a person. Obviously, I don't even know anything about him. But from a NFL talent standpoint, right? Like, he's not somebody that needs to be drafted in round 1. At least not by Las Vegas. I've said before, I think he's a guaranteed bust in Las Vegas. He is an athletic quarterback, and he does have the ability to use his legs. He can use his legs when he's throwing the football. Like, those are all very good things. And he improved every year at college. All great stuff. But for the Raiders in their window, AP and Telesco, they got a 2-year window. He's not ready to play in the NFL in the next 2 years. But does he have the mental toughness? I mean, he literally said out loud that playing at Auburn was too much for him mentally. Like, no disrespect to Auburn. No disrespect to the SEC. But if you can't handle that, you're never going to be able to handle Raider Nation. You're never going to be able to handle what it is to play in the AFC West when you're going up against Patrick Mahomes. You're never going to be able to play with the Las Vegas Raiders. And because of that, it's why I don't think it's going to end up working out for Bo. Now, where you're probably going to have to draft him is round 1 and round 2. I don't have a round 1 grade on Bo. For the Raiders, I wouldn't even take him in round 2. Like, I'm telling you right now, if he's on the board at 44, I'm not taking him. Like, I'm out on it. I don't think it makes any sense. We can move on from Bo Nix. Let's go to the other quarterback that the Raiders have met with that maybe you guys have never heard of before. Michael Hiers, the quarterback from Sanford. And I will admit, he showed better than expected arm talent at his pro day. Like, not really anticipating all that much. He is an accurate thrower of the football. And I will also say, like, tape on him is not easy to find. So I'm not going to sit up here and act like I watched a whole bunch of tape on Michael Hiers from Sanford. I haven't. I'm going based off of notes, based on people that follow the NFL draft as closely as they do. 2022 was a better year for him. 36 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 77% completion percentage. And, like, this is the tape that a lot of people say to watch on him was 2022, where in 2023, 18 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. He's 6'1", 215 pounds. Probably just going to be a round 7 UDFA target. Like, if the Raiders are looking for somebody that you can add after the draft, add a little bit more depth, I do think this Michael Hiers, guys, is a name to keep in mind. As it stands right now, the Raiders have met with 4 QBs for top 30 visits. So this is a game that I like to play, and I'm curious what you guys have to say. It is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. So if you could pick one based on the value that you see up on screen, who are you rolling with? You're going to take Michael Penix Jr. in round 1, type MP. If you're going to go with Bo Nix in round 2, type BN. Jordan Travis in round 3, JT. Or you're going to go with Michael Hiers in round 7. I want you to type MH. My answer to this one is at the quarterback position, you don't go cheap. If you're going to roll with a quarterback, you roll with your guy because I don't care where you draft him. Not every single person's going to be Brock Purdy. You're not going to be able to find Mr. Irrelevant and he turns into a franchise quarterback. I'm going to go with the guy that I think is the best quarterback out of all 4 of those names. And if I got to take Penix in round 1, pick 13, that's not a wasted pick. What I don't want to do is I'm not somebody that likes to waste time, money, or picks, right? Like, if you told me, hey, Mitch, this is going to cost $100 or this is going to cost $20, this $20 thing's not going to work. This $100 thing's going to work. I'm going to spend $100 because I look at that as money well spent. I do believe out of all 4 of those quarterbacks, who has the best chance to develop into an actual NFL starter, it's Penix. Like, to me, out of all those guys, the worst value is Nix. I would rather take Jordan Travis in round 3 than Nix in round 2. And I'm not even sitting up here saying, like, I want the Raiders to draft Penix. Like, if they did at pick 13, I'd probably say it's a C-plus grade. It's an average move. I want them to go get Jayden Daniels. But out of all those quarterbacks, I want Michael Penix Jr. Coming up next here, which offensive line players have the silver and black at least met with for their top 30 visits? I'll tell you in just a second. But for those of you that do not know, today's show is sponsored by Game Time. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And I am filming this show on Friday. And I'm telling you right now, I have Mavericks tickets, which that game starts in about 3 hours, and I got the tickets about 3 hours ago. Shout out to Game Time for giving me the best deal available, because that's one of the things that I love about Game Time. The lowest price is guaranteed. And buying tickets to your favorite events, it shouldn't be stressful. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, theater, events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guaranteed, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code ChatSports for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code ChatSports. That is spelled ChatSports for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. But I think Game Time is really cool because you have the ability to create memories. And when I go to an event, and I always tell people this, right? And maybe it's from my days back when I used to sell tickets back in my college days, but they used to always tell us, and I believe it, you sell the memory. You're going to remember who you spend that time with probably more than what you remember the game. And that's why I love ticketing apps. That's why I love Game Time. And I want you to get started. Promo code ChatSports for $20 off. Let's now go to the big boys that met with the Raiders. Top 30 visits. Garrett Greenfield, the offensive lineman from South Dakota State. I like his quickness. He's got an athletic lower body. I will say he's not good enough as a pass blocker to play at offensive tackle. He's a guard. There's some people that are going to be like, no, Mitch, he could play offensive tackle. That's your opinion. My opinion is he is not good enough in the passing game, and he wasn't good enough in the passing game at South Dakota State. I don't think he's going to be able to get it done in the NFL. You want to put him at the interior? You want to put him as a guard? Sure, let's make it happen. If he can improve his blocking technique, I do think he can be a starter in the NFL, because from an athletic profile, when you're 6'6", 311 pounds, and out of all the offensive linemen that competed at the Combine, I would say the numbers that stood out to me the most were Garrett Greenfield. Dude broke the record in the vertical jump, which maybe that doesn't mean all that much. He is an explosive athlete at this size. If he can get his technique down with good offensive coaching from James Craig, I'm not kidding you. This is a dude that I would target in round 6, maybe even round 5. If he can't get his technique down, not worth a pick to me. Let's go to the next name here. I'm going to go with Johanning, the offensive lineman from Furman. So he played center and won the 2023 Southern Conference Jacobs Blocking Award. So essentially the best offensive lineman in that conference. And he also helped Furman rank second in the SoCon in rushing yards for 160 yards per game. I do also believe that he needs to add weight. This is one of those other players on this show that I'm not going to sit up here and say, I watched tape on him. If you can find tape on this guy, send it to me. Seriously, send it to me. I'm going to watch it because I can't find any, and it's not easy to find tape for any Furman player. What I know is he's 6'3", 276 pounds. If you're an offensive lineman at the NFL level and you weigh 276, way too light. I don't care if you got the best technique in the world. I don't care if you're pound for pound one of the strongest players at your position. That's too light. Somebody's going to have to put almost 30 pounds on this young man. And the fact that you got to put 30 pounds on somebody, I don't want 30 pounds of bad weight. I want 30 pounds of good weight as a rookie in 3 months. It's a tall ask. This to me is probably just one of those little bit more of a UDFA target. Don't see him getting drafted. Let's go to the next name here. It's at the wide receiver position. So far, the only receiver that the Raiders have had a top 30 visit with. It is Brenden Rice from USC. I have once said on the show that I believe the receiver that is the most likely to get drafted by the Silver and Black is in fact Rice. And I think it's one of those players that the Raiders have done a really good job this offseason at trying to find coaches that also played in the NFL. I don't think it's that crazy of an idea. And again, I don't know if this is what they're doing, but if they're looking for coaches that have NFL experience, does it surprise anybody that maybe they're also looking for some players that, I don't know, their parents have been in the game, that they know what it takes to be a great NFL player. And I'd say that Jerry Rice knows what it takes to be a great NFL player. If you don't know, Jerry Rice, that's his kid right there. Excellent physicality. Great in the red zone. He had 12 touchdowns last season. I will say his below average footwork, which helps or does not help him separate from routes, especially early on. But he catches with quick, strong hands. It's usually because he doesn't do that good of a job at separating. To me, the peak of what Brenden Rice can be Like, I've seen a lot of people throw out the comparison of Puka Nacua, which I think is a little bit more of a modern-day type of comparison. To me, the receiver that Brenden Rice reminds me of when I watch him on tape is Anquan Boldin. And I hope some of y'all can remember that name. Boldin wasn't the most athletic player. Like, he's even, like, Chugs will like this one, Andre Johnson, where Andre Johnson is an elite athlete. Anquan Boldin, also an elite athlete. I'm talking a little bit lower level of those type of guys, but they were so physical. They were so tough that, like, they would beat people up at the receiver position, and they would be able to catch those contested balls. And minus Andre Johnson, I think that might have been more with his quarterback play, never dominated in the red zone. But, like, a dude that you knew you could rely on in a tough situation, that's what Brenden Rice brings to the table. Coming up next here on today's show, the defensive players that the Raiders have met with on their top 30 visits. So we've gone through all the offensive guys. Now we're going to go through some of the defensive names here. And if you're watching this show, don't be afraid. Click that like button. Believe it or not, it does help us out quite a bit. If you haven't seen one of my most latest shows that I put out that I absolutely love, I dropped a mock draft. And this was made by Graphic Raider, Sanjeet, Wasted Talent, Hammer House, my guy Samoan Raider, Kenny King Jr., Raider Scout, and then Honcho Raider. All of them, they put all their picks in and made a Raiders mock draft, and I graded it. If you want to go check it out, that link's available to you all down in the comments and in the description of today's show. Let's go to the defensive side of the football now. I got Jaylen Allen, the defensive lineman here from Memphis. And Allen at his pro day said he would play any position on the field if needed, which I kind of like that mindset coming from a small school. Good athlete, kind of reminds me of the Dollar General version of Malcolm Kuntz, which it's not a knock on Jaylen Allen. It's just I'm always going to speak the truth here. Malcolm was a third-round pick and had a hell of a season last year. That's kind of how I would want to see Allen be used. But, like, he is a bendy athlete, and I am a sucker for a good edge rusher that has good bend, right? Like, the number one, Chugs laughed, but, like, the number one thing that I look at for edge rushers in terms of, like, what can take them to the next level is how much can they bend? Like, how fast can you run and your body be on a tilt? Like, if you remember, and if Mayock got one thing right, he said the reason why that he loved Max Crosby, and as soon as he said it, my light bulb went off in my mind because I was like, I love Ben too. And he said that Max Crosby moves like Gumby. And I want defenders that can move like Gumby that have that athletic ability. And Jaylen Allen, he's got some Gumby in him. So he is 6'3", 240 pounds from Humboldt, Texas. 41 tackles, 2 sacks, 1 forced fumble. I know you probably look at those numbers and don't get too inspired by him, but he was definitely a guy that got a lot of QB pressures and a dude that definitely was able to really disrupt the backfield overall with the Tigers. Let's go to the next name here. It's a very common name. Our team here at Chat Sports had the opportunity to meet him and interview him at the NFL Combine. Byron Murphy II. Powerful, well-schooled at taking on double teams. Like, I think about what I want in a Raiders defensive tackle. And if this team did not go out and sign Christian Wilkins, Byron Murphy would probably be the number one guy I'd be looking at right now and saying, hey, like, let's go out and get this dude at pick number 13. He's got that elite combination of strength, balance, flexible. His lower half is unbelievable. And I think the trait that Aaron Donald has that people just don't ever think about is, like, Aaron Donald's not that big of a dude. But a lot of the power comes from his lower half, like the lower part of your body. And that's where Donald has always said is like, that's why I can generate pressure. Byron Murphy's got that lower half in him. And his frame, it might be close to maxed out, which might scare a few people away because they're like, oh, he's already hit his peak. I don't think he's hit his peak in terms of technique and just becoming a better football player. But, like, his body overall, it might be totally filled out to what it can be. 6'1", 310 pounds from DeSoto, Texas. And if you don't know DeSoto, it's probably the best high school football in the country. Let's go to another guy here. We got Makai Wingo, the defensive tackle from LSU. He is undersized, and that's a fact. Undersized defensive tackle prospect, but another guy that's very, like, compact, powerful. Think of him almost as like a bowling ball. The thing that I also love about his tape, he's got a lot of hustle. Great motor to beat linemen to a spot. Like, if he's trying to get into a gap, he's going to beat you because of his first step. And his hand power make him fun to watch. My comp here for Makai Wingo, in terms of tape overall, his first step is as good as they come. But one of my favorite moves that Adam Butler used to do last year would be find a gap, swing under it, swipe over top, and then he'd get in and rip in, and he's already causing havoc. He didn't create as many numbers, but Wingo could be one of those players to me where you put him in the middle next to, Wilkins. People are obviously going to pay attention to Wilkins. They're going to pay attention to Crosby, but he's going to be able to beat a guy one-on-one, or he's going to be able to free up somebody, which is very important to do for a defensive tackle. Some people are going to be worried about the fact that he's undersized. I would say he's a better version of Mo Hurst. And Mo Hurst was a really, really fun player. I wish he didn't have the heart condition, or else I think he would have got a little bit more chances in the NFL. But Makai Wingo's got a little bit of, for Raider fans, again, I'm not saying it's exactly the same, but a lot of times when I make NFL comparisons, I try to make comparisons based on players that maybe the nation would know from previous dudes. And Wingo's got a little, got a little Mo Hurst in him, but pause on that. Let's go to the next name here. We got Amari Gainer, linebacker / edge rusher from North Carolina. He's got extreme quickness off the edge and could be I think a good edge in the NFL. Some people list him as a linebacker. The tape that I watched on him, I actually don't think that he should play just solely linebacker. Think of this as a Kyle Van Noy type of player where he can get after the quarterback. He can also do a really good job dropping back into coverage and playing zone. I'm not going to have him play man, but you need to drop him back a little bit. Could be a solid dude. And my biggest knock on him is, the expression bull in a china shop? Because when the ball's ran, he just looks like he's just frantically running towards the ball and has no plan of what's happening. When the quarterback drops back to pass, he's in his comfort zone. When the team runs the ball, you don't want Gainer out there on the field. He's 6'4", 235 pounds, 2.5 sacks this past season with the Tar Heels. And if you're going to try to get him, this is a player that I would target personally in round 7. I'm not saying this is where he's going to go. These are all based on where the Raiders should draft them. Let's go to the next top 30 visit here. It's JaQuan Shepard, the defensive back from Maryland. 2-year starter who I did think took a pretty big step forward this past season. I don't want to hear, Mitch, I don't want to go with another Maryland defensive back because JaQuan Bennett struggled, though JaQuan Bennett is much better than JaQuan Shepard. Has excellent size for a boundary corner. This guy has no versatility. I'm telling you right now. He is only, and I mean only, an outside corner. He struggled in man. He can only play zone. So I don't really know if the fit is all that great with Patrick Graham, but the comp that I see for him is a bad version of Brandon Faison. This could be somebody that you target in round 7. Maybe he materializes a little bit to be a better player. He did have quite a bit of PBUs, never was able to come down with an interception, but big body, physical corner. He's just not very good in man. Next name coming up here is Omar Brown, the defensive back from Nebraska. He does have quick feet, excellent change of direction ability, which I do think is important if you're going to try to put him in the slot. And eager to come downhill as a tackler. I will say this, really, really struggles against quick and fast receivers. His quick feet and his ability to change direction, I feel like is better 10 yards into the route. If it's early on and quick moves are happening, doesn't do as good of a job there, but I want somebody that's not afraid to come in and be a tackler. When I look at Omar Brown, I probably just see him more as a special teams guy, and I did find it kind of interesting the amount of top 30 visits that the Raiders had that were just based on dudes that I think are going to go late in round 7, potential UDFAs. Those are the guys that they're meeting. I'm also thinking it's a lot of guys that maybe there's not as much tape on compared to some of these other players that are out there. But at 6'1", 200 pounds, if this guy was a round 7 target, a UDFA target, and that you could potentially find him as a gunner in the NFL, I think it's a pretty good fit. This player was probably one of the most intriguing top 30 visits. And Trey Taylor, safety from Air Force, won the Jim Thorpe Award, which is the award for the best defensive back in the NFL. And for those of you that don't know, Trevon Merrick, who the Raiders drafted, also won the award for the Jim Thorpe Award, which is the best defensive back award. He plays with this linebacker mentality. I do think he could be able to cover tight ends pretty well. The way that I think Trey Taylor gets worked into the NFL is probably not so much as a safety. They try to turn him into a Tanner Muse, a Divine Diablo, a linebacker safety hybrid. And he is aggressive against the run. He does struggle in zone. And here's the thing. I don't know where he's going to get drafted because I've had conversations with people that said, he's going to go in round 3, round 4. And when you get awarded the best defensive back in college football, people listen to that. 6 foot, 210 pounds, put up solid numbers this past season, but like on tape, for a need for the Raiders, I'm not taking him unless it's I'm not taking him until 6 or 7. But somebody might take him a little bit early because maybe it's a bigger need for them. I don't just view safety as a major need for the Silver and Black squad. And out of all these prospects, this is probably the most difficult one for me to figure out where exactly he's going to get drafted. Let's go to the next name here. It's Julius Wood, defensive back from ECU, aggressive player, firing like a missile downhill for run support. And my comp here for him is Jonathan Abram. Like, he's going to be a fun special teams player. Julius Wood is going to make NFL rosters for the next 5-6 years because of the way he plays football, but only as a special teams guy. I don't even want to list him as a safety. He's not good enough to play safety in the NFL. He is a Jamal Adams, Jonathan Abram guy at like the $1 range. He's just got one mode, and that is, I'm going to take your freaking head off at any means possible. That's a guy you throw on special teams. He's not a good coverage guy, whether it's man, whether it's zone. It's just not going to happen. Julius Wood, solely special teams player, but you do need those type of players here. So that's all 15 guys that the Raiders have met with. What I want to know from all y'all is I want you to name a player that the Raiders should bring in on a top 30 visit. If you don't know some of the other names that we've already thrown out there, we're going to quickly roll through some of those on top of that. But if you made it this far in the show and you're like, hey, man, we still got 15 other names to go, it doesn't always mean because you get 30 top 30 visits that all of those get filled. Sometimes they don't end up getting filled. But what I wanted to be able to do today on our stream is just kind of go through some of these names and just outline overall a lot of the ideas, a lot of the players that the Raiders have already met with. To hit me up on Instagram, I'm at Mitchell Renz 365. To hit up my guy Chugs, he is also at Jeremy Chugs, Jeremy_Chugs on IG. Don't be afraid to hit us up, IG, Twitter. Interact with us on social media. I mean, after all, that is why we are here on this show. Those are all the top 30 visits as it stands right now for the Las Vegas Raiders.